time now for a look at some of the day's business news. And for that, I'm joined here in the studio by France 24's Cole Stangler. Cole, you're looking at the EU-African summit, which is wrapping up today in Brussels.
Yeah, that's right, Thomas. Obviously, a lot on the table, military cooperation, sharing technology for vaccines, but of course, a lot of economic issues at stake as well. At the end of the day today, leaders are expected to make a joint statement on a new investment plan. It'll inject some 150 billion euros into the African economy over the next 7 years. It'll be a mix of public and private funding. Now, we're still waiting on the details, but according to the EU, that plan will cover a few key areas, among them renewable energy, growth and job creation, and then also increased internet access. All this coming, of course, as another world power has been boosting economic ties with the African continent. China, one of the biggest net investors there in recent years. As you see here, some of the key points of that plan. China has that Belt and Road Initiative. And while it's not quite at the same level as China, Russia has also been ramping up investment in the continent. So the EU's plans here very much seen as a response to these developments as well.
And Cole, as you mentioned there, one of the big issues in particular at this summit is increased internet access. What exactly is Brussels planning to do here?
Yeah, again, I'll be watching closely for the details to come out later on the day. But the EU does have a significant space presence, like the Americans, like the Russians, and the Chinese. The EU wants to use that presence to improve communications and internet connectivity. And just this week, actually, the Commission announced a new €6 billion investment in satellite communications. Plans to launch that program next year. Some of that aimed at so-called dead zones in the EU, areas where high-speed internet access is lacking, but also very clearly aimed at Africa as well as the Arctic, both of which the EU calls, quote, areas of strategic interest. So concretely, this project will involve hundreds of small satellites in low orbit. And the idea is also they're filling a real need. About 60% of the African population lacks internet access. Some of the wealthier countries do have satellites of their own, Egypt, South Africa, Nigeria, but there's still a lot of demand for high-speed internet that just isn't being met today. The EU hopes to fill that, at least in part. And Thomas, of course, geopolitics never really far from any of this. Elon Musk's company, Starlink, has been planning to build a similar network of its own. There's also a British firm, OneWeb. So this EU program would be in indirect competition with both these.
OK, Cole, let's talk now about the markets. How are they faring this Friday morning? Yeah,
still a lot of anxiety over that situation on the Ukrainian border, though investors have welcomed the news that the top diplomats from Russia and the U.S. have agreed to sit down for another meeting. And so we're seeing gains, some slight gains in London, Frankfurt, and in Paris to kick off the day. On the CAC 40, shares for Hermès actually down 7% now. That's despite an 11% increase in sales for the luxury brand. That was still below expectations, and the firm suffering from production caps as well. And we're also looking at oil futures, which are continuing to fall. Something of a roller coaster week for oil markets. We saw tensions in Ukraine have prices skyrocketed. Then the prospects of a nuclear deal with Iran have seen them drop. As you can see there now, benchmark Brent crude trading at around $92 a barrel.
Now, in other business news, Cole, this Friday marks the start of London Fashion Week. It's an event that's been estimated to generate more than €300 million a year.
Yeah, this year's version will still be partially online, but still expected to have the biggest in-person audience since before COVID. It also comes with brands under pressure from environmentalists and animal rights groups, demands ranging from reducing carbon footprints to cutting out fur. Sinead McCausland has more.
Taking on the catwalk baton from New York, London welcomes a global audience in a hybrid fashion week as the industry continues adjusting to the new normal.
It's quite interesting to see whether we will ever return to where we were. So we are actively encouraging businesses to really think about what works for them, what connected best with the audiences that they want to speak to, and use London Fashion Week as that platform.
In an industry that generates £32 billion a year for the UK economy, many of London's biggest fashion names will be missing from the 5-day event, with brands including Burberry, Victoria Beckham, and JW Anderson abstaining from the runway. But their absence will put the spotlight on burgeoning brands in the mix of over 130 designers featured. With younger designers comes a more eco-friendly season.
We will be talking a lot about sustainability, and we have made sort of a commitment to really think about how we move to a circular fashion ecosystem in the UK in the next 10 years. And that requires many stakeholders to play their parts, including the designers.
But for animal rights groups like PETA, there's still more to be done, as they protested the use of feathers Thursday night. Back in 2018, British Fashion Council vowed Fashion Week to be fur-free, whilst Kering, owner of luxury fashion houses like Balenciaga, announced a total ban on fur starting fall 2022. Fashion houses still using fur include Dior and Hermès, although they have each committed to minimizing animal suffering.
Thomas, London, of course, one of the big four fashion events. Paris Fashion Week kicks off later this month.
Cole Stangler with the Business News. Thank you very much.